In this video, I'm going to show you who's responsible for this attack here. And don't tell me you haven't seen this attack and looked at your partner and said, was that yours or was that mine? This video, I'm going to give you a simple formula you can use so that you know who's responsible for this ball every single time. Welcome to Into Pickle. This channel is dedicated to providing you this type of content. High-level strategy, high-level information so that you understand how to play the game and don't have doubts out there when you're playing pickleball. My name is Tony Roig. I'm a certified master teaching professional, which is the highest level of accreditation, as well as a senior pro player. So when I show you this stuff, I can tell you I know what I'm talking about. The reason I want to explain this to you is because a lot of times when we're playing out there, what happens? We're out there looking at our partner going, who was supposed to get this shot here, right? This middle attack that happens from here or from here, drives through the middle. Players look at each other or they reach out there with their paddle in a way that doesn't make sense, end up missing the shot or popping it up. There's a simple principle that you can use that will help you figure this out and not make you guess, particularly when you're this player. And we're going to be focusing on you being the blue team. So you're going to be, this is going to be you. So this is your team down here. All right. The blue team, focusing on it from this standpoint in terms of what you do when that yellow team is hitting that middle attack shot. Now, maybe you already looked over here and you saw that I wrote down the name of the channel, but by the way, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Get more stuff like this. And then respect the, but I left it blank. The reason I left it blank is because this is where it's at. Respect the X. If you follow this at any amount of time, you know that this is one of those concepts that just stuck. We put it out there and players have really resonated with it because it is such a valuable concept that you can use all the time when you play pickleball. What I want to do is I want to lay out the X first for you. I'll show it to you, and then we'll go into the more advanced concept about how to cover that particular shot. So generally speaking, the X is you can think of the X as connecting these players. So this player here is connected to this player here, and this player here is connected to this player here through this X. And the idea is that if the ball is traveling along an axis of the X this way, for instance, right? This player lets the ball go to this player and vice versa. This way, this player lets it go to this way, like that. So there's a nice flow to the game. And it's the kind of principle that you can apply all the time. You don't need to do things like forehand in the middle. Forehand in the middle sometimes gets you the right answer, oftentimes does not, because the player with the forehand's either reaching, sometimes the player's backhand's better. So, forehand in the middle is one of those maxims that gets overused. Again, sometimes it's right, but oftentimes what happens is the player out there just says forehand in the middle or thinks forehand in the middle, and they're missing a bigger picture of the story, which respect the X is always going to be the right answer. Now, you can break the X. There are times to break the X, and if you want to know more about that, I'll link to a video up here you can check out on breaking the X and concepts like breaking the X, or concepts when you should break the X or can break the X. But applying respect the X to your game, having it as an evergreen concept, right? That's always there every single rally will help you avoid mistakes in the middle, will avoid you on missing defensive opportunities, right? Opportunities where you can let the ball go through and let your partner defend the ball better, like this, when you're reaching across to hit that attack shot rather than letting it go through along the X. Respect the X is one of those pickleball concepts, one of those pickleball strategies that just applies all the time. So and again, there's a lot of videos, and I'll link to the playlist as well. We did a lot of videos showing how it breaks down on dinks and things like that. Make sure you check those out, because adding this to your game will greatly improve your game and make it simpler to communicate with your partner and know who's supposed to get what shot when. Now, let's break down this particular situation. So here's what's happened. You're in a dink. Let's say this player has dinked at cross court like this. You've shifted over like this some, right? So you were over here, ball's over here, okay? They dink at cross court like this. This player shifts over to get that ball. You shift over, player shifts over, this player shifts over. Now, who's supposed to cover this attack ball? So this player is going to basically attack the ball this way, right? Whether it's a volley or whether it's a ground stroke, going to attack through the middle. Now, it looks like this player should be able to get this ball if they can, right? So this player can sit there and lean left or right, and then if the ball comes this way, they can intercept that ball. There's a few problems with that approach. Before we get into that, let's talk about the angles. of coverage. So the angles of coverage that you need to worry about in this situation are, you have three. I have this one, and this one. Okay, there's always going to be, anytime you play pickleball, there's going to be three angles that are potentially open, right? Here, here, or here, right? That's just how the court lays out with two players and these spots. Now, normally in pickleball, I will tell you this, you do not want to get beat down the middle. The middle is sacrosanct, if you will. The middle of a pickleball court is not where you want to get beat. The second one you don't want to get beat on is down the line. So those are why? Because it's just bigger, okay? And there's a whole host of reasons why these two are the ones you want to defend. Those are the ones you want to defend for sure. This one here, it's the hardest one to defend, but it's also not the hardest one to defend, but it's the least valuable one because it's so small, right? To hit a winner that way, very small, has to hit perfectly. You have to not be able to get to it. So what you think about in pickleball is you think, okay, if I need to worry about two of these three angles, I'm going to worry about this one and this one and this one. I'm gonna roll the dice on that one, right? I'm gonna see what happens. See if this player can actually hit a winner that way. So what happens here is and that shows you all your movement too. That's why you slid over this way, right? Because you want to cover this and this. Now, this player is the one that's going to have the most confusion in this potential confusion in this situation, and this is where the X becomes critical. This player is sitting on two angles that you want to cover: the down the line angle here, and the cross court, the middle shot here. Okay, the most likely angles that this player is going to attack for the win. Now, we talked about the middle attack, and that's the one we want to focus on here, because that's the one where you have double coverage, right? If you see the court right now, I have single coverage on this shot, this player, double coverage on this shot, single coverage on this shot. So if you use a respect the X principle right here, and what's interesting about this is the respect the X actually gets collapsed here, so that's why it's a little bit harder to see. When everybody has slid over, like this, when everybody slides over, right, it looks like the X is really, like it doesn't really exist, right? Because it looks kind of like, more like the ball's here, right? So now the X looks kind of like this. It's an obtuse X. It kind of loses its shape. That's why I showed it to you earlier this way. But the X is still there, because what happens is if you put the X, actually slide the X over here. If you look at the X like this, right? So it can go this way or this way, right? The X is still present there. The question then is, if the ball gets hit this way, then it's this player's. If the ball gets hit this way, it's this player's, according to the principles of respect the X. Now, what does that do for you? It does a couple things. One, it allows this player to know what to cover. You're no longer going to be, if this is you, you're no longer going to be sitting there going like, weight on both legs. Which one do I cover? Do I cover this way or this way? What you're going to do is you're going to say, you know what? I have one responsibility. I have to cover this zone here. So you will lean in this situation towards your left. So you will either get your backhand ready if you're right-handed, or your forehand ready if you're left-handed like I am, and get ready to hit that ball. If the ball goes to the other side, this way, you don't even think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to break your paddle around. You don't have to do anything other than let it go through, knowing that this player is also leaning what? Left. This player is also basically leaning heavy left, looking for that attack coming on this side of them. Okay. Now, if the ball goes on the other side of them over here, it's very difficult to hit a hard shot winner that way. So if this player hits it hard in this direction, this player just does what? Lets it go, right? Let it go out of bounds. If this player dinks it, even though this player is leaning to the left, this player has time to get over there on a dink and get the dink and dink it back or lob it or do whatever they want, right? So what this does, this X concept being applied on this side, it greatly simplifies the responsibility of this player and this player. This player knows that along this axis of the X, right, which is this attack like this, it's theirs. This player knows that under this axis of the X, right, it's theirs. And there's no confusion anymore about who is supposed to take this middle shot There's no more looking at each other. I mean, obviously there can be a conversation. If this player lets it go, this player, if you know them, right? This player can say, hey, listen, that's your ball. I'm going to let that go. That's your ball. I'm going to lean this way. You're going to lean this way. And if you watch the top pro players, that's the way they play. They will play where if the ball is getting attacked down the line, they will cover that line, and then their partner will cover that middle shot. Our friend Hellas Barr calls it workhorse, and it's workhorse, and I forget what this was called, but it's basically like blocker and workhorse. So you have blocker here and workhorse here. Any ball that comes this way or this way is going to be this player's. Any ball that comes this way is going to be this player's. The only exception to that, and this is breaking the X, would be if this player ends up popping the ball up around here. So there's a pop up here. In that situation, this player, if they're able to, can take the ball and put it away, right? So that you can break the X. That's where this player now, so the ball's coming this way along this line. This player breaks the X, not letting it go through, takes the pop up and puts it away. That's an example of an appropriate breaking of the X, because you understand there's an X, but you have a reason to break it. And whenever you have a reason to break it, break the X, you can do so. What you don't want to do is needlessly reach out there. And that's the second reason why this is so important. One is that you know which way you're going to go. And the second reason is because now you're not reaching your paddle out there late because you were sitting, hopefully correctly sitting, looking this way. And then the ball came that way and you're reaching late to grab the ball when your partner is already sitting there expecting that ball, waiting for it, as opposed to you reaching out with your paddle late and being, popping it up or making a mistake. This X concept is really going to simplify your game out there, not just in the middle when you're dinking and when you're dealing with third shots and things like that, which apply as well. Check out the playlist. But also on these attack shots, whether it's down the line or down the middle. Down the line's easy, right? No question. It's yours. There's nobody else there. This is the one that causes trouble, and this principle of letting it go through to the player on the other side of the X will greatly improve your defense out there on the pickleball court. I'm going to link here to some more videos. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.